Okay, we're here at the university today to do some VO2 max and lactate threshold testing with Danny. You might be thinking, what is VO2 max? So VO2 max can be defined as the maximum amount of oxygen Danny can uptake at a given time. And we're also going to do his lactate threshold testing. We want to be able to get some data points moving towards Danny's goals and targets for next year. So we've got the HYROX Pro Doubles event in January, then we're going to be building towards a half marathon in March, and then 3 marathons in 1 month in April, followed by the Ironman in July. So the reason why I've come to the lab is so we can actually get some data points to better program his training throughout those events, so we can do different types of specificity for each event that he's going to be undertaking. Okay, so we think we're somewhere at Danny's first turning point. So he's currently running at his last ramp, which is 17 kilometers an hour. He's done 4 ramps. So we've got quantitative data, we've got a lactate reading, heart rate reading for each 4-minute block, and that will help us start to formulate and understand his lactate curve. Okay, so now we've done his lactate threshold, so that's our 4 minutes ramp to get his lactate readings. We're now going to move on to the VO2 max part of the test. What he's going to do here is every minute there's going to be an increase in speed, basically to the point at which Danny can no longer run. So as you can see, he's harnessed up here, so he's just going to go and go and go and go until he feels like he can't go anymore. Okay, right, so we're back at Core HQ at the Core Gym. How's the legs feeling?
Yeah, freshening up a bit now after a tough morning, but yeah.
So yeah, some really useful data from the lab. You know, was the kind of data that we can see, which we'll share with you in a minute, was that data that we can see here representative of how you felt? You know, did you expect to see those numbers, or?
Yeah, I mean, obviously not being as advanced in my sports science knowledge as yourself, I wasn't too sure what I was physically going to see, but obviously having it broken down and seeing where it's at, it's probably around, maybe slightly below what I expected, but it definitely replicates how I'm feeling.
And do you think that obviously you've transitioned from doing your marathon into more HYROX type training? Do you think that, you know, potentially these stats might have been different 4 or 5 weeks ago versus what we're seeing now?
Yeah, definitely. I definitely felt, I mean, at the peak of the marathon training and stuff, I was obviously a little bit lighter going into that, and transitioning into this HYROX training. Put a little bit of weight on, putting a lot more load through the body. Definitely a bit of fatigue in the legs and stuff like that. So I think that's probably played a part in the results that have come back.
So looking at the data here, we've got Dan's LT1, so we know that's the first rate at which we start to see an increase of lactate. We've got that at 11.4 kilometers an hour and at heart rate 137, which is somewhere in and around what we thought we knew anyways from data points that we've had in the past, heart rate, threshold field-based testing. And then his LT2, the rate 4 millimoles plus, the rate at which lactate starts to increase exponentially, was 14.7 kilometers an hour and 167 beats per minute, which kind of sits somewhere off where we actually thought that might lie. We actually thought that his threshold might have been slightly higher, so whether that's due to some fatigue that Dan's been carrying, or, you know, that is the representation of data. And his VO2 max came out at 53, maybe slightly less than we thought, but we have seen some weight changes since he finished more of an endurance type activity. So ultimately, that just shows the direction of which we now need to take Dan in, is to bump up that VO2 max, which ultimately will increase the threshold, LT2 for his HYROX, and then moving into next year for more of his endurance-based activities, we'd like to see that LT1 increase as well. So effectively what that means is a better output for the same given effort.